When I reached C Company lines, which were at the top of the hill, I paused and looked back at the camp, just coming into full view below me through the grey mist of the early morning. We were leaving that day. When we marched in 3 months before, the place was under snow. Now the first leaves of spring were unfolding. I had reflected then that whatever scenes of desolation lay ahead of us, I never feared one more brutal than this, and I reflected now that it had no single happy memory for me. Here love had died between me and the army. Here the tram lines ended, so that men returning fuddled from Glasgow could doze in their seats until roused by their journey's end. There was some way to go from the tram stop to the army gates, 1/4 of a mile in which they could button their blouses and straighten their caps before passing the guardroom, 1/4 of a mile in which concrete gave place to grass at the road's edge. This was the extreme limit of the city. Here the close, homogeneous territory of housing estates and cinemas ended, and the hinterland began. The camp stood where, until quite lately, had been pasture and ploughland. The farmhouse still stood in a fold of the hill and had served us for battalion offices. Ivy still supported part of what had once been the walls of a fruit garden. 1/2 an acre of mutilated old trees behind the wash-houses survived of an orchard. The place had been marked for destruction before the army came to it. Had there been another year of peace, there would have been no farmhouse, no wall, no apple trees. Already 1/2 a mile of concrete road lay between bare clay banks, and on either side a chequer of open ditches showed where the municipal contractors had designed a system of drainage. Another year of peace would have made the place part of the neighbouring suburb. Now the huts where we had wintered waited their turn for destruction. Over the way, the subject of much ironical comment, half hidden even in winter by its embosoming trees, lay the municipal lunatic asylum, whose cast-iron railings and noble gates put our rough wire to shame. We could watch the madmen on clement days, sauntering and skipping among the trim gravel walks and pleasantly planted lawns. Happy collaborationists who had given up the unequal struggle, all doubts resolved, all duty done, the undisputed heirs at law of a century of progress, enjoying the heritage at their ease. As we marched past, the men used to shout greetings to them through the railings. "Keep a bed warm for me, chum, I shan't be long." But Hooper, my newest joined platoon commander, grudged them their life of privilege. "Hitler would put them in a gas chamber," he said. "I reckon we can learn a thing or two from him." Here, when we marched in at midwinter, I brought a company of strong and hopeful men. Word had gone round among them as we moved from the moors to this dockland area that we were at last in transit for the Middle East. As the days passed and we began clearing the snow and levelling a parade ground, I saw their disappointment change to resignation. They snuffed the smell of the fried fish shops and cocked their ears to familiar peacetime sounds of the work sirens and the dance-hall band. On off days they slouched now at street corners and sidled away at the approach of an officer for fear that by saluting they would lose face with their new mistresses. In the company office there was a crop of minor charges and requests for compassionate leave. While it was still half light, day began with the whine of the malingerer and the glum face and fixed eye of the man with a grievance. And I, who by every precept should have put heart into them, how could I help them who could so little help myself?